of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, helps if I unmute the mic. So with that, why don't we begin with the city manager's report?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. The first person that will speak under city manager will be Mr. Commissioner Phil Ragona.
Give me 1 second to get him up onto the. Oh, John, I think give me 1 second to get him up onto the.
Hi, you got me?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'll be very brief this evening. There's just several events that occurred within the city of Long Beach in the last week.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Involving the Long Beach Police Department, which my office has received numerous calls on, and I feel a need to clarify and get the facts out there on each one of these instances. Firstly, this past Saturday, which was October 3rd, 2020, we, and the first Saturday in October, as we know, is traditionally the AOH Festival and Parade. That festival and parade were canceled for all the obvious COVID-19 reasons. I just want to go on record and say thank you to both the AOH for their cooperation, their understanding, and working with us in getting the message out that this event would be canceled. Secondly, I'd also like to thank our licensed premises, our restaurants, our bars, throughout the city and specifically in the West End. Their vigilance has been unparalleled, certainly during this pandemic. And on Saturday, I had spoken to all of the owners of these restaurants and bars and explained the need to be extra vigilant because, well, a lot of people know, the young adults, that it's the first Saturday in October and they're going to come out for an impromptu party. I can say that we did not have one SLA, State Liquor Authority violation, in any restaurant and bar. I was out there. They really were diligent in doing their duties, and it was an excellent job. So it's a tough time for all of them, and they did a great job, and I want to thank them. There were a lot of impromptu house parties from the young adults that came out. We had police officers, bike patrol, extra bike patrols out, and we policed it accordingly, and it went pretty much without incidents. There were loud house parties, but it really went smoothly, and it was a cooperative effort from everybody, from the bar owners, the restaurants, our police department, and the city management. Secondly, I'd like to speak to an event that occurred this last Sunday, October 4th. I've received numerous calls about this. At 2 p.m. this past Sunday, there was a home invasion, robbery, burglary, which occurred within the city of Long Beach. A door was pushed open. A man was assaulted. They committed a robbery. Our police officers responded swiftly and promptly and made a summary arrest at the scene of one of the subjects involved. We have one more subject that we have identified and our detectives are looking for. There has been some concern from our residents believing that there's possibly a serial burglar, robber on the loose. I just want to reassure everyone that, in fact, all parties involved in this incident were known to each other. They were acquaintances. There is nobody out there who's a serial burglar that you need to be concerned about. We know who this person is, and I can't really go further into it as it is obviously an active investigation. But if there's any concern, and I have received calls about it, there isn't anybody out there that you need to be concerned about committing burglaries at homes. The last thing I want to address, and I've received many calls on this, on October 1st, last Thursday, at 6 p.m., there was a demonstration, a protest, and a subsequent march that occurred. And the theme of it was police reform, which we obviously respect everyone's right to protest, to demonstrate, and to exercise their constitutional right of free speech. This event started at 6 p.m. at Kennedy Plaza, and the actual protest itself and the speeches ended closer to 8:30, and a march subsequent to that went down Park Avenue, up Long Beach Boulevard, and ended at the MLK Center at approximately 9:20 p.m. We had to staff this accordingly. It turned out that it was a very small turnout. Maybe 50 or so protesters came out, but the police department had to be ready for the worst. And when I say the worst, I mean the largest crowds, and to police it safely. So there was an overtime cost that was incurred, and it cost the city $8,832 to police this protest and to subsequently police the march. I have to say the one thing that was a little unsettling to me and I was there, during the actual protest itself, there were profanities and veiled threats used. And I can tell you from my 34 years doing this, that's no way to bridge any gaps. And I respect everyone's opinion about police reform, and there's always room to do better. And I know that. But cursing, threatening, even veiled threats are really not the way to do it. And we have video of all of it, and it's being reviewed by the LBPD Detective Division as we speak. I can only say and appeal to all our civics throughout the city. My door's open, and I think what we need to do if we want to bridge these gaps between communities is walk through that door. Come to me. I think a dialogue, an open conversation is the key to community policing and the key to solving any issues and problems. Your problem is real to you. It's very real to anyone who has an issue. And I'd like to hear it. Profanities, threats, it's just no way to get the message across. And that's my opinion. I'm here for all our civics, and I think what we need to do is do it better and kind of come together and not come apart. Those are the three issues that have come across my desk this week that I felt the need to address today. And thank you, Donna, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman, are you on? I see the picture.
Yes, I think so. For some reason, my camera seems to be having a problem. My background's there, just I'm not there. But I'm here. And as long as you can hear me, I'll go on.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to give a couple of updates. One, we've been getting some emails and some calls, I understand, about the polls and the elections. So we will have polling places, and I have personally overseen the execution of polling agreements for City Hall and also the MLK Center. There is no issue with either facility, and both will be operational, and both have, as I said, we have polling agreements with the Nassau County Board of Elections for both. So there should be no issue there. In addition to that, I know that we've gotten a number of additional emails this week regarding the MLK Center and the status with them, particularly in light of the demonstration that was held last week. So just to, again, reiterate, I know I've gone over this before, but just for public comment, especially considering that we are still getting emails that seem to indicate there's some confusion. Oh, and just backtracking, I'm sorry, for the polling places. In addition to that, we will have, proper policing and security there, so there should be no issues whatsoever. Again, just going along with the whole idea of the protest, the rally from last week. We are continuing to try to work to ensure that the community, particularly the students of the community and the children of the community that are currently it's our understanding from many sources, struggling with remote learning and or, distance learning, given potentially, an inability or not having the availability of internet and or devices, digital devices that allow them to have the same advantages that other members of the community may have. So we're still working toward being able to service this community properly and get these types of, resources available for this community. So we have continued to reach out to the MLK Center, continued to request that they work with us to develop and to properly implement a reopening plan, a programming plan, a site safety plan. We have been in communication with Nassau County regarding the same.
Simone,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm really sorry, but I think it's important. Can you please clarify who you're talking about? You said MLK Center, but all I know is that there's an MLK Center Inc. nonprofit. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I'm sorry. The MLK Center Inc. not-for-profit. So yes, and sorry, I just referred to them as MLK Center. So yes, the MLK Center Inc. not-for-profit. We are continuing to reach out. I reached out again today, continuing to try to resume discussions with them regarding, like I said, their reopening plan, getting a programming schedule that works for the community, also works to accomplish the needs that, Nassau County has sees a need for, the youth services funding that they receive, what we have now, the information we're receiving from the community and the types of needs that are currently need to be met. As I said, we continue to do this. We had started our outreach in July. We had some discussions in August, and the MLK Center Inc. board and their chairman had requested that we hold off on further discussions until they retain legal counsel. And, we continue to reach out. There has been no action taken, because I know I've seen a couple of emails in the last couple of days that have indicated that the board has taken some type of vote, taken some type of action to try to get them out of the building. That is absolutely untrue. There has been no vote. There has been no action taken. The only action that's been taken is to try to reopen the building in accordance with the governor's reopening plan, which just provided for the reopening of educational facilities in September and also some minor recreational activities. So, as you're aware, the building, as every other building in the city, was closed to the public due to the governor's pause order in March. And we have complied with the governor's orders and reopening with every stage and phase. So, phase 2, we, started working on our site safety plan to open the building for administrative work only. We actually didn't open as early as we were able to, because we wanted to make sure that we had a full site safety plan that protected everyone in place. So that is what we are trying to accomplish now. And we are trying to get a site safety plan in place and a schedule of programming in place, and trying to assist in any way that we can so that the MLK Center Inc. can continue to provide services, and also we can assist in ensuring that this community gets the services that they deserve and that they need. So that's where we are.
Simone, I just have one quick question. For every program that's out there, whether it's educational or whether it's activities, there is a site safety plan for each, correct?
Yes, and the site safety plan must be specific to the type of activity or whatever activity is being conducted in the building. So if it's office work, that's one site safety plan. If it's, for example, with our beach and our boardwalk, we had a completely different site safety plan. Even our farmers market has a separate site safety plan. So yes, and each activity, so for the rec center, the limited activities like swimming that we have going on in there, we have a site safety plan for that type of activity as well.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I just have an update. I'm not copied on on a lot of emails, but I just wanted, Simone, I just wanted you to know that I was copied on an email at 5:23 this afternoon, where the law offices of Frederick K. Brewington responded to an email.
Yes, I do have that. He indicated that next they're working toward coming up with some dates, and they hope to tell us next week. Basically, that's how I read it.
I thought you've been reaching out to him for over 6 weeks. Is that true?
We've been reaching out to him since July. Yes.
Thank you.
Donna, I just have one general basic question for Simone.
Sure, Mike.
When you enter a building, whether it's City Hall, the Rec Center, the MLK Center Inc., or any, are all of the protocols the same? For example, when I enter, let's say, City Hall, they take my temperature and so on and so forth. I sign in. Would that be the same for everybody that would enter the MLK Center Inc. as well?
Yes. Right now, for the purposes of office work, the city has a citywide office work-based site safety plan. So with that, protocols are in place that are specific to office type work. So, as we're working and functioning every day it's administrative office work in the building. Yes, any of our buildings that are functioning for that purpose, and during whatever hours they are open, because some of the hours are limited in certain buildings, we are operating under one site safety plan for office work. So yes, it would be the same. Take your temperature in town, not town hall, City Hall, sorry. You take your temperature, you sign in, and put down your information for the special, that's working at the desk. That provides for contact tracing and also ensures that you don't have a temperature. And I believe you're also asked a couple of questions.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, because based on what I just heard, there was a different narrative put out at this protest that was on Thursday. So if I understand correctly, so tell me if I'm correct, the holdup at MLK on getting programming going is that MLK Inc. has not provided the city with a list of programs that are in accordance with the state executive orders and site safety plans for those programs?
Yes.
So it's MLK Inc. is the holdup right now. We're waiting on MLK Inc. and have been.
Yes.
Thank you. Because that's not what was put out at the protest.
You are correct. It was not, but that is the truth. It is. We are waiting on them.
Okay. Donna, it looks like Phil dropped off. I heard $8,800 in police overtime. That was just the police, or was that all overtime, including like the maintenance department that also had to put barricades up and things like that?
That was just police.
Yeah.
That's just police. We don't have the numbers for the additional staff yet.
Okay, so we're probably looking, ballparking it here, but we're probably looking at $12,000.
Yes, between 12 and 15, because 8,800 is really closer to 9,000. And so that's for overtime. So we have to look at everybody else.
So for 50 protesters, it costs the city about $250 a protester.
Right. I mean,
it appears Phil is still on.
Well, I think that the bottom line here is that everyone has a right to protest. I don't know who protested, who the protest was by. I don't know if it was by the nonprofit organization or if it was done by a bunch of individuals. So
I'm not arguing that people don't. They certainly have a right to protest. They do.
Right.
Absolutely. Just people need to understand there's a cost.
Rather, yes, when you're a private citizen and you want to protest, there will be a cost to all of the taxpayers of the city.
Right. The taxpayers are picking up the tab for all of these. Okay.
Phil is on if you have another question for him.
No, I was just I was just trying to figure out what this cost us. Because I know obviously the earlier protests, the larger one, that also there was state police involved and the county police involved. That I'm sure had a very large price tag to the taxpayers as well.
I mean, there's a balance. There's always going to be a balance between the cost of doing business and exercising our freedom.
Absolutely.
So, but it does have a cost, a real
Absolutely.
cost.
Right. Absolutely. No. I'm not at all implying people shouldn't be exercising their rights. Not at all.
Correct. I know.
John, was traffic interrupted at all? Or Phil is the commissioner on? Was traffic interrupted at all during this protest?
Yeah. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes. Phil, you're unmuted.
All right, great. Yes, it was one of the more involved marches that we've had, simply because between 6, well, it started at 6, but at 8 o'clock at night, we had to shut down Park Avenue from National Boulevard going east, which, as you all know, is the center of our business district. And we had to shut it going down east all the way to Long Beach Boulevard. And when we came to Long Beach Boulevard, and Park, which is the biggest intersection we have in the city, we had to shut everything down and divert traffic as the protesters marched northbound on Long Beach Boulevard in the northbound lanes of traffic up to Market Street. And then at Market Street, we had to shut down traffic at Pine. No cars could go southbound. And we had to divert the group of protesters westbound on Market around J.J. Evans and back around. So it was a very involved traffic assignment, and traffic was absolutely shut down for quite a bit of time on the main areas that we have, which is Park Avenue in the center of town and Long Beach Boulevard.
Phil, just a question on that. Do we have some kind of criteria on when we do or do not close the streets for activities? I mean, I guess why were the streets closed for 50 people when they could have used the sidewalk, it seems, and not disrupted traffic?
Right. So, President Bendo, we traditionally hope for the best, but we have to plan for like I said earlier, when I say the worst, I mean the largest crowds, not the worst, but the largest. So we've had crowds of 800 to 1,000. And the worst thing that you can do is not plan for that and not have a contingency plan set up in regards to shutting streets down. And you have 1,000 people come out into the middle of Park Avenue, and it's difficult to stop them. And then you have public safety issues.
Yeah.
So we didn't know we were going to have 50. When we did have 50, the march was already scheduled. We were committed to having it go that way. We, as a city, committed to Mr. Hodge and the groups that were protesting that we would, in fact, go that route. So we only had 50. We really anticipated having way more. So that's the reason. If we knew prior to it starting that they were expecting 40, 50, 60 demonstrators, it could have been a whole different story, but we didn't know that.
So did you get in your discussions with the organizers, did they give you an estimate on how many people they expected? Yeah,
quite evasive, to be quite frank with you. And I was told we can get anywhere from several hundred to 1,000. And it was publicized quite broadly on social media. And we had our TARU, our Technical Assistant Response Unit Lieutenant, monitoring all the chatter on social media for the days leading up to it, and actually that day, and there were plenty of hits on it, and we had every reason to believe that, in fact, that it could have been a larger number. Obviously, it was not.
Phil, this is Karen. Is it fair to say that the closure of main thoroughfares such as Park Avenue had negatively affected many of our local businesses who are already struggling?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I can tell you personally, because I deal with the restaurant owners daily. I spoke to a number of them from Long Beach Social on, and they were all concerned. They said their customers weren't coming out. This was prior. I didn't see any customers out on the sidewalk, and it was not a bad night out, dining. So in my opinion, without being a restaurant owner, it obviously appeared that it had shut down people from coming into the area. Yes.
So
Phil, I just have a question. So initially, the request came in connection with the 39th anniversary of the MLK Center, and because I had actually thought they were organizing it, and that's why they had their banners. So correct me if I'm wrong, just for the clarification, but I was a little bit confused as to that myself.
Well, initially, there was conflicting requests. Initially, it came in that the Martin Luther King Jr. Center was going to celebrate 39 years of an organization being inside that center. I consulted with Corp Counsel, and we knew that you can only have 40 people out front, and they couldn't really run contemporaneously with this demonstration. So there were many offers made to the organizer, Mr. Hodge, that in fact you can have that event earlier to commemorate the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, and then we will be there to assist and facilitate your protests, which, as Karen said earlier, is certainly a constitutional right, and your march. So that didn't, obviously the celebration, to my knowledge, didn't really occur in the way it was supposed to, and it was the protest and the demonstration, which was strictly to demand police reforms.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was still a little bit confused about how it ended up after our discussions.
Yeah.
Are there any other additional questions? All right, Mr. McNally.
Shifting gears ever so slightly, everybody. I just have two quick community-wide announcements. There was in the calendar that got distributed to everybody early in the year, there was evidently a misprint that said recycling would not be happening tomorrow, October 8th. That was a misprint. Citywide recycling will be happening tomorrow. Oh, sorry, 7th. Misspeak on top of the misprint. And then the only other one in addition to that is Long Island Cares, through funding from Nassau County, has been doing food distribution out of Magnolia Senior Center every Monday for the past several months, and have committed to do that really through the end of November. Because of Columbus Day on Monday, they are closed as our city facilities, so that service will not be provided this coming Monday, the 12th, but will resume on the 19th. And those are my only two quick announcements.
All right, any questions? Thank you. So now we go to CMA. When we discussed CMA contract, we discussed having a quarterly report, which was sent to all of you. And Ms. James Nikito is going to, did I say that right, James? Or close?
You're close enough, close enough.
Okay, he's gonna go over the report, and we have a PowerPoint. He has a PowerPoint presentation for you on something that we have been working on. It's in its early stages, but I thought it was a good time to show you all and show the public all what we've been working on in the city manager's office. So go right ahead, James.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank Donna and the City Council for inviting us to speak this evening. We've been very active with the city over the past several months, over the last year, really, on a number of different engagements. The first part of our engagement with the city was to develop something called a fiscal conditions analysis. Now, that analysis is a little bit more of I consider it to be like a past and a present. It discusses the current conditions, the fiscal conditions of the city, how it got there, and it identifies a number of things that can be done in order to bring the city into a better financial position. The second part of that engagement was to develop the long-term plan, the forward-looking plan, and that's a multi-year plan. In doing that, we've identified, a number of recommendations, a number of initiatives, and we've recently been assisting the city with the development of fiscal and operational management policies to assist and make things more transparent. Now, in making things transparent, one of the areas that we've started to look at is developing what we were referring to as a fiscal transparency portal or website for the city. It encourages innovative thinking, it engages stakeholders from the city, and it fosters the efficient use of resources. You'll see both the Office of the New York State Comptroller and the Government Finance Officers Association consider financial transparency to be one of their best practices. So we thought today we would show you a couple snippets from the website that we're working on, with the city administration right now. So I believe that I can share my screen. I'm going to give this a try. So if anything happens, we do have a backup plan in place, but let me try to see if this works. Okay. Please bear with me here. I think I'm allowing. Okay. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. So this is a PowerPoint, as I'd mentioned, that we've developed, which kind of shows you some snippets of the transparency portal. So what we envision here is this would be the top portion of the page. What you'll notice here is there's two buttons. I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer, but there's going to be two buttons at the top portion of the website here. And what this would be utilized for is to, kind of highlight either plans that we're working on, or if there's other items that the city want to bring to the attention of, the residents or of any of the stakeholders. This would be the spot that they would be showcased. So for the purposes of the demonstration tonight, we put the fiscal conditions analysis there in the multi-year plan. Obviously, these are still plans that are being reviewed with the city. Once they're publicly available, this would be the spot that they may be showcased. So if somebody wanted to review them, they could easily go to the website and download them. They'd have full access of those plans here. Moving down on the page, we'd envision a message from the city manager's office. This could be updated on a monthly basis. It could be updated on a weekly basis. It's really the decision of the city at that point. We'd work with the city to help craft a message. And this is just, again, to highlight, some key hot topics of the city, some areas that may be in question, or anything the city wants to highlight. Below that, we envision what I call kind of our dashboard section. And you'll notice over here on the left side, there's a bunch of different tabs. Now, on each one of these tabs, you would see that there's going to be a little snippet that gives you just some text version of what's been going on in the city. And I'm going to get into these. There's a little button here that says, we'll say click here. And when you open these, there's a dashboard that's going to open up. We'll get to those in just one moment. But what I want to show you first is over on the right-hand side here. This would be an area where, again, you'll see a number of different tabs. And these would be a lot of either financial, operational policies, documents that stakeholders could go to, and they would have, quick access. They could pull your audit reports, budgets. We have a section here for EMA filings. And what that is, once a year, the city has to go through and provide to investors an update of their operations. And this would give you a quick link where all of that data would be able to be quickly downloaded by anybody visiting the site. So now what I want to show you is, again, these fiscal health indicators. These are where the dashboards would lie. So I want to show you what a couple of those, what we envision that they'll look like. So the first one that I'll show you is the economic and demographic highlight. The data for this is extrapolated from essentially the U.S. Census Bureau. It's updated on an annual basis with interim data. And then, obviously there's every 10 years, the normal census. So this is the information that we're pulling from that. And it would give an idea as to, the population trends, the breakdown of the population, a number of other factors of, that would measure income, housing in the city. And this would be updated, as frequently as we possibly can. Financial highlights. This is a dashboard that we've compiled, which is going to show the general fiscal health of the city. It shows it in a trend basis. What we could develop is, as we're working on the multi-year plan, when we have the forecasting of the data, we can expand this out, in which case it would show you, if you do these different initiatives, this is what we believe the fiscal impact could be on a long-term basis. We have a real property highlight. This is showing, the assessed values, the largest taxpayers of the city, and some of the trends that would focus in that area. And the final dashboard that we had highlighted here is just a breakdown of the city's debt, the obligations that are presently outstanding at a certain point of time. So this would need to be updated, perhaps once a month, perhaps, every couple of months, but we would update this probably a little bit more frequently. Moving on down the page, you would see something that we refer to as a monthly budget tracking report. What we envision here is providing to the council a number of, we're going to look at the different funds of the city, and we want to show what the expectation is throughout the year. How much of the budget has been utilized at that point. Perhaps we may look into see, what was it in previous years? Are you tracking in accordance to the budget? Are there areas that, could be in danger? Are there areas that you're doing, well in? So we would have this here. Right now, we only have 1 month shown, but we would just, month after month, we would just, add it out for each year. This is just a snapshot of what we kind of envision the cover page of that may look like. And I also included the table of contents just to show you. We would be looking at some of the city's major operating funds and give a breakdown of, revenues and expenditures. We would obviously be working with the city controller's office to get that information. One of the components towards the bottom of the page would be key departmental metrics. We would be working with the city in order to develop a number of metrics for the departments to just track the efficiency. Are they doing their expected jobs? Are they following through? Are they going to hit their budgetary marks? Moving down, this would be the tail end of the page. We have a contact section where visitors could go and pull up information for key contacts at the city's municipal advisor, or there's a section here where they could even, send a question in to have that submitted. And we were planning on perhaps putting an area on the website where, there could be potential responses. So that's essentially the breakdown of what we're expecting to see on that site. As Donna had mentioned, it's still a bit of a work in process, but this is kind of, what we're envisioning.
Okay, questions for James?
James, the data that's on the website, is it dynamically generated, auto-generated, or is it input manually, updated manually?
A little bit of both, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It would be sent to us, and we would be updating it. And I have, the way that I've set it up, I have some of it, populating automatically. Other things I would rely on the city to then, give me some information, which I would populate, or our team would populate manually.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So James, your trends, these are monthly reports. Basically, when the data comes in, it gets updated compared to the budget, whether it's a positive or negative variance going forward. But this is based upon, the budget that was adopted. Do you know if any of we're during a COVID pandemic right now. Do you know if any of that will eventually be, I'll say, slightly explained? Like, we anticipated this, but due to that this is the favorable or unfavorable variance?
That would certainly be something that, could be incorporated. The nice thing is, us having, full control over this. If there's areas that the city would like expanded upon, if they'd like explanations, we would certainly be able to incorporate that.
Okay. And all of the buttons that you had demonstrated, which, by the way, pretty nice, I might add, is available to any party through our website?
It was our recommendation that there be a link placed on the city's website that would, bring folks directly to, to this area. So once it is publicly released, that would be what we would expect would happen. Yes. And
the multi-year plan will always be, not always be. it'll be modified from time to time because it is a multi-year plan. As information comes in, we could
100%. We always refer to that as a living document, and it should be updated frequently because we want to use it to measure. Well, if we do X, Y, and Z, this is the expected result.
Right. I thought so. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Hi, James. It's Karen. It's nice to meet you on Zoom. I had a few questions for you.
100%.
It looks great. I love it. It was a nice surprise. So thank you, Donna and James. And then for questions, is the software that runs this program, is that proprietary, and who owns it?
Yes, it is. It would be owned by us. We're not, charging a fee to the city for utilizing this. We consider it part of our engagement with the city to help with the implementation of the plan. Okay, so there could be a future annual cost for such a dashboard, correct? If it extends past our engagement with the city, and if that's something that they would like to, maintain, we would discuss it obviously at that point. And where is it hosted? It's hosted through our, through our firm. So it's Okay. And then who has access from the city to that to the portal? We have access to it. We would designate somebody at the city, perhaps Donna, who we would provide, login information to as well. Okay. All right. I found I had actually asked for some of the statistical information that you had provided recently. So that was really helpful. And it really shows that Long Beach is open for business, so that when people want to invest or in Long Beach, they can see our financial health for good or bad, but that at least we're transparent about it. So I was really happy about that. Thank you. And then separately on the quarterly report, the fiscal conditions analysis is an extensive document and it's not final yet. Is there a timeline for when that would be released to the public?
We're waiting for you all to send back any remarks so we can finalize it.
Yes, so that's my bad. I still haven't read it, but it's on, I printed it out.
It's a lengthy document.
Yeah.
And I just sent you 13 new policies that we need to go over by the end of the month to vote on. And so you have a lot of reading to do. I will say that the fiscal analysis, policies adopted, and then we can go back to the fiscal analysis. So if we can get to the fiscal analysis by the end of the year, I'd be very happy.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And then in addition to that, the strategic plan, the quarterly update, I don't know if it could be edited so that it could be posted on the website so that the residents can review it and actually see and monitor our progress and see the strong and positive relationship that we have with CMA. Something that I'm very proud of, and thank you for all your work. And of course, Donna and Nina. Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
No, I just want to reiterate, thank you very much. A lot of work was put into this, and it is truly appreciated by myself and I'm sure by the residents.
Thank you. So in the strategic planning in the quarterly report, there are a few policies. 13 of them I sent to you all, and hopefully the last Thursday of the month, we will have gone through those, answered any questions, James and I, and then we can have a special meeting to pass all of those, and those policies then will go on the website. There are two policies that you don't have. One is the travel, which we will send to you, in revenue, which we're working on. Those two policies, we will get those so that you can review those for the month of November. And then the last big policy we have is the employee manual that we're working on. So you'll be able to get that along with the fiscal analysis for December. And the goal is that we get this site up and running and we get things done accordingly, so that it will show our transparency. It definitely will show the Financial Review Board and the State Comptroller's Office that we are moving forward. The last note that I have is that we are starting the budget process for the next fiscal year, the next couple of weeks. We're going through the multi-year plan, and the goal is that the budget that will be in the multi-year plan for the next fiscal year will close to being accurate. There will be some adjustments, but we are starting with the department heads, and we announced it, Ina announced it on Monday in the department head meeting, that we will be starting the process in the next couple of weeks, and we're fast forwarding so we can finish the multi-year plan, at least get a draft of it out. And that's what we've been working on. So that's the end of my report, unless someone has questions.
Don, I just have one question. The budget that we presented to the public this past summer, May, had a lot of input from the department heads.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All of our budgets, we give a rough guidelines and a worksheet to the department heads. They fill in what I call what they want, what they need, and then what they want. Then we go through a session that we cut down what they want to make sure we got what they need in, and that if there's any money left over, then we can hit some of the little items, what they want. Okay, end of my report.
All right, thank you. Lots of good stuff going on, so we'll keep marching forward. So with that, I guess we can move on to the agenda, Dave.
Okay, first one note, folks, that item 5 has been taken off the calendar for tonight. And our first item is a public hearing for a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for 6 Park Avenue for a health products retail store. And let me bring the proprietor up to present. Okay, Mr. Taylor, I've allowed you to give you permission to talk. Please unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well, welcome, Mr. Taylor. And can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a health and wellness franchise that I started here on Long Island back in 2010. Had several family members pass from cancer, especially one at a young age of 28. And after she had passed, I started doing research on health and disease, and found out that we've kind of been led into this whole reactive lifestyle where everything's based on cure and nobody focuses on prevention. And started a little small company out of West Islip, New York, and has expanded it into 11 locations. You guys will be the potential 11th location. And we're just there to teach people there's other alternative ways to be proactive, you know what I'm saying, before we get down the road to disease, that you could do, you know, build some fences before you go over the cliff, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Okay. How many employees do you expect to have? And what do you expect your hours to be?
It's going to be a one-man show. It's all due to COVID. We did this. We are trying a new concept store with you guys. Virtually everything the same thing we do is, but everything's going to be sold. It's going to be like a retail store for the home, so the people could buy health and wellness products, saunas, whole house water filtration systems, air cleaners. You know, all the stuff for the home. It's like a fountain for the home kind of thing. Instead of we usually have our typical store has a membership where customers come. They have a membership and they come and, you know, use the sauna and the services. And like I said, this is going to be an inside out version where we're not doing any of that. We're just going to have a salesman in there to sell the equipment. And then we're going to have a small little water refill station in there where people can get clean, safe, healthy, filtered water and our own little mineralized proprietary blend.
Okay. What do you expect the hours of the store to be?
I'm looking at like 10 to 7.
Okay. So 7 days a week?
Yeah, 7 days a week. Yes.
Okay.
Sunday modified hours, of course.
Yeah. Do you expect any deliveries and things like that?
Most of the stuff that the customer is going to be able to buy and they'll be shipped to their house. Do you follow what I'm saying? Because it's large stuff. There's some little stuff, but most Any stuff would be probably brought in by my, a small box by myself or one of my assistants.
Okay. And just for information for the public that might be watching, this is going to be located in the space on Park Avenue next to Five Guys that used to be the taco restaurant.
I think it was called Six.
Yeah, it was called Six. So that's the space we're talking about.
Yes.
All right. Any other council members have any questions?
Good evening, Mr. Taylor. This is Elizabeth Treston.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. Do you have a website that people can look at your products?
Absolutely. It's everything's spelled with a PH, so it's fountain.com. PHOUNTAIN.com. It's probably most of you guys' new favorite place. You just don't know it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any more questions from the council? Okay. I guess we'll go see if there's any comments or questions from the public.
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, then, Dave, why don't we quickly move item 2 up and vote on that now, so Mr. Taylor doesn't have to
Absolutely.
unnecessarily stay on.
Okay. So item 2 is a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 6 West Park Avenue, street floor for a health products retail store. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delury,
Yes, and welcome to Long Beach.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
and President Pendo.
Yes. Welcome to Long Beach, and we look forward to having you as a new business in town.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I actually went to Long Beach schools 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. It was the best years of my life. I love Long Beach.
Well, welcome back.
All right.
All right. You have a good night.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay.
So onto the regular calendar. As I said, item number 5 has been taken off the calendar for this evening. And item 1 is approval of minutes from prior meetings September 1st and September 15th, 2020.
Okay. I know I had just a couple of things on the September 1st meeting on page 3. It says, second paragraph, it says Councilmember Treston confirmed that they did work off an older plan since that was what the city paid for, and it was what for the new jetties and not the beach replacement. This was a conversation about the Army Corps project with the jetties. The city didn't pay for anything. It was what Congress authorized to be paid for. So you might
I'll have to
just
go back and
verify
check and
what
see
she
what was
actually
said.
but that was
That was
That
the intent.
yeah. And then on page 8, page 8, 1, 2, 3. I guess the 6th paragraph, the first one's kind of partial. This was about the IDA and the super block.
Mhm.
And the last sentence there, it says, Mr. Bendo also noted that the city was not receiving anything from the super block, but the IDA was, and he was not an advocate of this project. I had said I was not an advocate for the pilot, because that's what this was about, the pilot,
Okay.
not the project.
You can certainly review those two and go against the check against the video.
Okay, and then for the 15th on page 4, this was about MLK, and it says City Manager Gaydon stated she wanted everyone to know that the city was not trying to move MLK out of the building, which was why the city was trying to work on a lease with MLK. That should be MLK Inc. So again, we just
Again, we'll check the
We'll check
check
that.
it against the
Yep.
transcript.
And
Yep.
on page 6, under the voting portion, The very first one, it says August 18th, and it says the year 2020 twice.
No, that one we already got that. We're
Okay.
aware of that one.
So that's it for me.
Yep.
Anyone else have any?
Dave,
updates?
it's just on the September 1st
Mhm.
minutes on page 12,
Mhm.
the 1, 2, 3, fifth line down. It's just removing the second year 2020.
Yep,
That's
yep,
all.
we have that.
Oh.
We got that one too.
That's it.
Missed that one.
All right. Anything else, folks?
Anyone else?
Do you want to hold off
Okay.
approving these till the next meeting, or do you want to approve them with the pending changes?
I think we could approve them with the pending changes.
Okay.
No, you can't,
No?
because
Nope.
you can't approve him because he said he needs to go back and listen.
All right, we'll put it back on for the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll
Right,
add it to
for the next meeting. So
That's
what
fine.
we'll
I'll
do
take
in the
that off.
future, so that everybody knows, we'll try to get the minutes out earlier so that if there are any changes to the minutes, we can change them prior to bringing them forward to vote on.
Okay.
So all the changes can be corrected.
Thank
All right, so we'll move on to item 3, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for asphalt overlay work at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis.
Wait, just one quick question. before we
Sure.
move on. Sorry. Do we need to table number 1 then?
It's not a resolution. It's just an approval, so it's not approved. So it'll just get moved to the next meeting.
Okay, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yes, you need
Yeah,
to.
you don't need to table it. It's fine.
You sure you don't need to table it?
It's not a
If you
resolution.
want to, just to
We
be
can.
extra, but no, because it's not. It's as Dave just said. It's not actual. It's not a real, but it's not an agenda item that you're required to vote on. So if you'd like to table it, you can, but you don't have to.
My suggestion is that you table it because you're asking for an approval of minutes. And so you need to table the approval.
Okay, do I have a motion to table?
My recommendation.
I'll motion to table the minutes.
Second,
I second.
voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. I just like all bases covered.
Thank you.
Fine.
okay.
That's good. I'm good with
Okay.
that.
Back to item 3, resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for asphalt overlay work at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis.
All right, and I see Commissioner Mirando joined us, so I assume he's gonna enlighten us.
Yes.
One moment while I unmute.
You should be good to
Okay.
go.
Go ahead,
I'm
John.
good to go. So when we finished our contract for curb and sidewalk on our purchase order, we still had $22,586 left. So what we're asking is to take that $22,586, transfer it to the purchase order we just put out for asphalt overlays, which would add, another little section of asphalt we'd be able to do. We have approximately 7 locations we're going to do this year. We're just finalizing them. We had sent out an email with the locations we were doing, and we did get some feedback from Councilman Delory, but the place where he wanted to do it on national, we're going to be doing that as part of our drainage project next year, so it didn't make sense to do it. But this will give us a full $250,000 this year for overlays.
Okay. Any questions from any of the council members? All right, hearing none. Any questions from the public?
I have no hands raised at this time.
Okay, then I guess we can move on to the next item.
I'd just like to thank the commissioner and Joe Fabrizio and the staff, because I find it very informative when I can see the actual areas that they're proposing. It's just helpful for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to renew the agreement with East End Atlantic Beach Fire District. And I'll bring up Scott Kemmons.
Yep, I see a fire commissioner has joined us.
And I'll also bring up Mr. Barrios.
Oh,
Okay.
2 for 1.
Yes. Okay. Scott and Rich, you guys are able to unmute.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
I think you should talk about how we got here, and then I can fill in any of the statistical data and any of that information.
You got it. Okay, I'll start us off. So good evening again, Rich Berrios from Corporation Counsel's office. So as the agenda indicates, this is a renewal of an IMA, or intermunicipal agreement, between the city and the East Atlantic Beach Fire District, which is its own little entity for the provision of fire protection services and EMS services. This is a relationship that's gone on for probably in excess of 70 years. It may seem a little familiar to the council, and the reason for that is because this very item was up for resolution on the April 7th, 2020 meeting. At that meeting, if you recall, the council successfully voted on a motion which basically modified the terms of the proposed agreement, and so we had to submit that agreement back to the district. Add to that a number of circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic and that agreement. The parties had to go back to the negotiating table without disclosing the entire history of negotiations here. But after months of negotiation between the city and the district, the parties have come up with the proposed agreement that's up for vote tonight. The final version has already been approved by the fire district. And in terms of the overview and highlights, instead of the previous agreement for 5 years at 3%, it's now a 3-year term with 2 separate 3-year renewals, each at 1% every single year. So over the life of the contract, that's almost $1 million total that the city will be bringing in for providing these services. And I'm glad to present it to the council at this time.
All right, I can bring in a little bit of the statistical data. In 2018, we responded to 162 alarms in the East Atlantic Beach Fire District. Of those, 71% of those were EMS calls. In 2019, we had 158 calls, and 80% of those were EMS calls. So far in 2020, where we're over 9 months through the year, we've only responded down there 45 times. Obviously, the fire department's call volume is down overall over 400 calls, mostly related to COVID. Based upon the average amount of calls and the 2020 fees for the contract, it actually works out that every time we go down there, we get about $672 per call. On top of that, we bill for our ambulance transportation, and in a 1-year period, we collect over $50,000 for ambulance billing for the EMS calls in the East Atlantic Beach contract. So that, even being conservative, you add 50,000, so the 1-year contract between the ambulance billing and what they're paying us is close to $160,000 a year we're taking in. There's no real extra expenses to the city other than some wear and tear on the vehicles and fuel costs. All the other costs are already in place, whether it be the salaries of the paid staff that are here and being paid whether we had this contract or not. Obviously, there's no direct cost for the volunteers. Their LoSAP program cost would be not changed from the amount of calls that they would respond to East Atlantic Beach. So other than the wear and tear on the vehicles and the fuel, there really is no extra cost to the city. So it's really just income for the city.
Okay, Scott, is this one of these, do both volunteers and the paid firefighters respond in EAB, or is this just the volunteers?
No, this is both. It is in the paid firefighters contract that this is part of their response area.
Okay. All right. As for the extensions, who approves the extensions if they go into effect?
I can speak to that. So the way the contract is kind of drafted now was, again, the product of a lot of negotiation. Right now, the renewals will be at the option of the district, but they do have an obligation to notify us of their intent to renew by a date certain. Should they fail to do so, there's obviously legal recourse to that. And there's also another cancellation provision in the contract to protect the city's rights in the event that they're unable or we're unable to provide the services as provided in the agreement.
Okay. Any questions from the council members?
Scott, I just have a general question. First off, I wanted to thank you for providing the statistical data that you did from 2018 to 2020 regarding the number of alarms that you've answered. It is down almost, theoretically, it will be down over 50% versus last year at this current run rate. But my other question is, my bigger question is that this morning you had written us that we're down 462 alarms year to date versus last year for the entire fire department. Can you give me the decrease on a percentage basis versus last year?
I can't right now. I could definitely forward you that information either later tonight or first thing tomorrow. I'd have to get into the computer program system, but that would be easy. I could print the report and send it to all of you guys for that.
Okay, yeah, my bigger question is to see that if the alarms theoretically are down, at least I think you have over 4,000 calls a year, right?
Well, typically we do over 5,000 calls a year.
Yeah. So you're down versus 10% versus last year on a run rate for the entire year. So, how does that translate into the cost to run the department is of course my question.
Well, a lot of those costs don't really come out of, let's say, the fire department budget per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, the salaries are there no matter if we have 5,000 calls or 2,000 calls. Those are fixed costs in the budget. Obviously, the less amount of calls, we'd use less fuel. That would be a savings to the city. I wouldn't see that. That comes out of the central garage budget. And less wear and tear on the truck would probably mean less money for repairs of the vehicles. But the fire department cost per se really isn't going to change out of the fire department budget, because the majority of the fire department's budgets are salaries.
Okay, that really helps me understand how the department works. So thank you.
Just on that, Commissioner, just because I have the notes from the Monday department head meeting. So we're at 3,653 alarms this year, which is down the 462 from the previous year at this time.
Correct.
Whatever the math is on that, but we're at the 3,653.
So you answered my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Mike DeLore here. Thank you for the report. I think I have a simple question. What is the geographic area of the East and Atlantic Beach Fire District?
Okay, so Nevada Avenue is the last street in Long Beach. So obviously west of Nevada, and it encompasses part of what they call Atlantic Beach Estates. So typically the cutoff point is actually at the Atlantic Beach Club. So the Atlantic Beach Club is in East Atlantic Beach. The Sands Beach Club is in West Atlantic Beach, a different fire district. So the cutoff is at the Atlantic Beach Club, which is like Richard Street.
Okay, and then it would be on both sides, south and north of, was it Park Beach Street?
Correct. It's Beach Street, then it changes over to Park.
Okay, that I just would never knew, but thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Any other questions from the council?
I don't have a question, but I want to thank Mr. Berrios and Commissioner Timmons for their hard work on this project.
You're very welcome.
Yes, indeed. All right, Dave, do we have any questions from the public?
Yes, we do. Mr. Lester has his hand raised. I will unmute him.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Lester. You can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I guess as a taxpayer, it kind of bothers me. Every year, our fire protection budget goes up by about 2%, and yet we sell our protection for 1%. I don't see why the two aren't related. It's not a lot of money, I know, but it just seems if we're going up for 2% and we're selling our services for 1% over a 9-year period, It just doesn't seem fair. Now, I know that you say, or we're being told, oh, it doesn't cost us anything extra. Yet we have 550,000 budgeted for overtime. 550,000 for this year budgeted for overtime. I don't know if we're saving any money on the overtime. We're down 10% on our calls, but we still have 550,000 budgeted for that. And you're telling me that this doesn't affect our overtime at all. You know what? I know that's what I'm hearing, but it just stretches credibility.
I'd like to respond to that if possible, at least some of it.
Go ahead.
We are under a state Supreme Court settlement agreement that there are 4 career firefighters working at all times. Due to the limited manpower, that we don't necessarily have enough guys to fill that agreement without overtime. Whether we have this contract or not, it would not affect the overtime. There would still be 4 paid firemen working all the time, which has no bearing with this contract. That's a separate agreement and up for negotiations for upcoming contracts. But
yeah, if they, Scott, just if I understand correctly, we need 16 firefighters to man the 4 4-man crews, but we only have 13, correct?
we have 13 working, correct? Yes.
Right. So we're backfilling those positions with overtime. So that's why the overtime. Now the firefighters get their overtime is at straight time, correct?
A certain amount of hours first are based upon that agreement are at straight time, and then beyond that it goes to time and a half. But a majority of it is at straight time.
Okay. And theoretically, if we filled those 3 positions, they would be with lower paid individuals. So the overtime should drop significantly in that case, right?
But benefits would go up.
Correct. But I'm just saying, and I'm not saying, but if they were to be filled.
Right.
Okay.
So, of course, my question is, I mean, we're talking $550,000, and that's not including the benefits, I don't think. That's just the overtime. So 3 firemen would cost us, it wouldn't cost us $550,000, even with the benefits. So why aren't we doing that?
Can I address that?
Go right ahead.
Just for a moment. Mr. Lester, I understand your point. The idea is what Commissioner Kemmons talked about is kind of right. It's the overtime's not going to be effective one way or another. Why can't we hire other firefighters at that rate? Well, it's kind of a confusing question, but you can kind of analogize it to the PBA interest arbitration that just happened. We had a contract that's been expired for a number of years. The firefighters are currently under an expired contract for a certain number of years. So what it may cost us today may not be less than 550. It may cost us more down the road if we don't have an agreed upon agreement that covers this expired date. So there's like a number of variables that go into that. But I do understand your point about kind of just filling it up. It's just it's a bit more complicated than just hiring people and sinking a fixed cost.
And how many years have we been without a contract with the fire department?
I believe that contract expired back in 2010.
So we're talking about 550,000 or something like that a year for the last 11 years, 10 years, because we don't want to hire someone. All right, it's just okay. That's all my questions.
Donna, I hear what you're saying. We'll look into it. I'm not going to say, and we can't say that we have that amount of money in overtime because we don't want to hire. So I will look into it. I understand your question, and we will talk.
Yeah, but Donna, that's exactly what was said. That money is because that we have that overtime because we are short the firemen. That's exactly what I was just told.
Yes,
and the fact that the calls are going down and the fact that we're doing Atlantic Beach in no way affects the overtime, because the overtime is something that we're mandated to do because we have to have the certain number of firemen. And yet, if we hired them, we wouldn't have it. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I understand what you're saying, Roy. I completely understand.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Roy.
Rich was very
Thank you, Rich, for that clarification, by the way.
No problem.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, Dave, from the public?
No, that was the only hand that was raised on that item.
Okay, then let's move on to item 5.
Okay, item number 5 has been taken off the calendar.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
That's okay.
Let's move to item 6.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing budget amendments to the general and sewer fund budgets for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Okay, I have Ina on. She can explain.
Ina, go ahead and unmute.
You're still muted, Ina.
I'm muted.
There you go.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Hello? Yeah. Hi, good evening. So this resolution was prepared to basically get the funding where the people are going to be working. And there's been a couple of transfers from departments, operational departments, such as municipal building and beach maintenance, to the sewer department, and then one of them back. So this is basically to fund the positions where they are going to work. Hello?
Okay, so just to summarize then, all this is doing is putting the money where the person is being paid from, where they actually work, correct?
Yes. So they
Okay.
started the year in different departments, and now for whatever operating reasons, they need to be transferred between the departments, and to make sure that we maintain appropriate financial controls, we want to make sure that the budgets follow with them.
Okay, so this just makes now it'll line up with people are being paid from where they actually work in this instance.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
just another best practice that we weren't following.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from the council? Seeing none. Dave, do we have any questions from the public?
Yes, Mr. Lester has his hand up. I will unmute him. Go ahead, Mr. Lester.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I keep picking on the numbers, but I'm sorry. Does that mean that we're increasing the budget amount for the regular salaries in the sewer department?
Okay, so this is, Mr. Lester, this is a transfer. We're taking money from one place and moving it to the other. No budgets are being increased.
So our regular salaries on the sewer department stays at the 670,850?
No, they will be increased by the amount of this transfer, but the money is going to come from where these people were regionally budgeted for.
I know.
So
the budget
is
being increased. I understand it's a net zero.
Between the operating funds of the city.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I understand that. But it's not $670,850 anymore. It's $682,000 now.
The budget one budget will increase, one budget will decrease.
I know, but Donna, here's my problem. We borrowed $4.2 million that we have to pay back. Okay.
Yes.
We were going to try to pay that back by cutting, if we didn't need somebody, we wouldn't have them. So now we're going to be stuck. Remember, that's due next year.
Well, okay,
4.2
Mr.
million.
Lester, I'm sorry. first of all, borrowing the money has absolutely nothing to do with this line item. What this is saying is that we had people working in one department. We didn't hire new people to go in the department we needed them in. We transferred them from one department to another department, and the money transferred with them. So they're being paid. So it doesn't have anything to do. The budget overall is not changing.
No, I understand that, Donna. But what I'm asking you to remember is when you asked us to borrow the 4.2 million, we had to have an idea of how we're going to pay it back. And we were talking about cuts. Now, originally, the sewer department only needed $670,000 to operate. Now it needs $682,000. So if we didn't need somebody in one department, we moved them to another department. That doesn't save us any money. I know it's not costing us any money.
Lester, Mr.
I'm asking
Lester,
about the saving.
I'm not a person. I'm not going to do Commissioner Mirando's job. I'm not going to do any department head's job. If they're saying that they needed additional people, for whatever reason, they determined that some additional people were needed in that department. Maybe somebody's retiring. What we said was that we could afford to take people from one department and move them to another department. That doesn't mean anybody is doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean that we're not identifying that we do have to pay money back. What it means is that we're using the resources that we have, we're using the people that we have, and we're moving them from one department to another. And so maybe when they initially said this is all they needed, as you know, budgets are a guideline, and maybe something different happened. That is for those people that we pay big bucks to make those decisions, what they need to run their departments. And if we can transfer money from one department to another department without changing the budget, the overall budget, that is then fiscally being responsible.
I'm glad you think that, Donna. I look at 4.2 million and I've seen nothing that we are doing to be able to pay that back. But anyway, thank you.
All right, Dave, any other comments from the public?
Nope, there are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, then let's move on to the voting.
Okay. 1 second. All right. So we are going to start with item number 3, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for asphalt overlay work at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I
I will. Tristan, Councilwoman Tristan.
Okay. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
And President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to renew the agreement with the East End Atlantic Beach Fire District. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 6 is a resolution authorizing budget amendments to the general and sewer fund budgets for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes.
President Bendo.
I think Mike wanted to keep going. Yes.
No, I did. I wanted Dave to look up. Sorry. Sorry, Dave.
All right.
Okay.
On to good and welfare.
Okay.
And let's see. All right. Who's up in the bullpen?
All right, folks, if you want to speak at good and welfare, please raise your hand at this time. The raise your hand function should be, yep, there we go, at the bottom screen. Okay, so we have Charles Pecknick. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Mr. Pecknick, you're unmuted. You can fire
Can
away.
you hear
have
me?
3 minutes. Yes.
Okay, good
Just
evening,
give
everyone.
name and address for the record, please.
Charles Pecknick, P-E-K-N-I-C, 1005 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to go, I sent an email earlier today regarding a topic that I think the board, at the council, as well as the building department should bring up, and it's regarding 530 West Broadway. I'm sure the board members and the city council are aware that there was a zoning hearing in regard to this matter on Tuesday. At that zoning hearing, the owner of the property, who is also the developer, put forth a case in order to support his variances. Part of that case were at least 24 letters in support of it, as well as a letter from the PBA, the Long Beach PBA, and testimony from some of the supporters, as well as testimony from a police officer from the Long Beach Police Department. I wanted to bring this to the council's attention because, as I'm sure you're aware, that property has become a blight on the neighborhood, unfortunately. And the owner of the property actually admitted it. He sent letters to the zoning board, and the letters stated that the property is, and I quote, a vacant and deteriorated building. This was in at least a dozen of the letters in support of the owner's application. In the PBA letter, the PBA stated that it will remove the biggest blight on the boardwalk. So the owner of the property, who's responsible for that property, admitted through his own case that the actual property that he's in charge of is vacant, deteriorated, and a big blight on the community. Then that was followed up by testimony of residents that supported it, as well as an actual police officer who, during his testimony, stated that the building is abandoned, vacant, dangerous, that they're called there to remove trespassers, stop criminal activity. And he said that himself, as well as numerous other police officers, have to crawl through the building in order to get this done, which he stated was dangerous and very unpleasant. Based upon the owner's own admissions, his own case that he supported with letters and testimony, I'm requesting that the city council and the building department deem that 530 West Broadway is in violation of section 13-22 of the Long Beach Code for being a nuisance and in violation of that particular chapter. It's an unoccupied hazard as far as the city is concerned, and as a result, the developer and owner must immediately either be ordered to remedy the situation or demolish the building. If he's not able to remedy it and will not demolish it, I would request that the city council, as well as the building department and the corporation council, look into commencing a proceeding to compel demolition. I understand that, you may not be aware of everything that transpired at the zoning hearing, but I'm requesting for the good and welfare of the community that the city look into this. I do believe, as well as I think the building department will see, that it is actually an unoccupied hazard under the chapter and should be violated as such.
Okay, and that was your 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a quick question, Charlie. Have you spoken to the building commissioner about this yet?
No, I just sent an email because the testimony was just on Tuesday. So This morning, I sent an email. I did some research on it based upon what the testimony was. And I just sent an email this morning to the building commissioner. He was unaware of it before today, as was Corp Counsel and yourselves.
Okay.
So this is the first I'm bringing it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that, Mr. Pecknick, I did receive it. You sent it at 10:35 this morning.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we'll make sure that the building commissioner reads that. All right. Do we have anyone else, Dave?
Nope. At this time, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. I guess Roy's letting us off the hook. So with that, thanks for joining us tonight. I know, right, Mike? Who would have thought? He's giving us a night off.
Can I raise my hand? No, I'm kidding.
So with that, folks, thanks for joining us. And
Don't forget to fill out your census.
don't forget to fill out your census, please, so we can get as much aid as we are entitled to. It's easy to do and quick.
And the deadline was extended to the end of the month for those that don't know. 'Cause
Okay.
It was
No excuses.
So the
And
deadline.
just to, Liz, just to your point, I did meet some census takers. They have been in the area in the walk, so I just said hello. They weren't, mine is done already, but I just wanted to say hello. Good job. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, they're coming around. They knocked on my door too, even though mine was done. They seem to
Right.
be just blanketing the neighborhoods.
Right.
All right. So
Bye, everyone.
thanks for joining. What's that?
Be safe, be kind.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
All right. We off?
We're off the stream.
Okay.
But we still have.
Actually, I'm still on because I was reading what was in the chat.
Reading what was in the what?
In the chat room.
All right.
Oh.
Good night, John McNally.
Good night,
Good night.
all.
Good night,
All
John.
right.
Thank you for that quick department head update with the numbers. That was pretty good. I think Karen liked that a lot.
Okay. So Dave, all the public's now out, right?
No.
No,
No,
Roy
Roy's
Lester.
still on here, Roy.
Okay,
Roy
that's
and the
right.
COA are still on. Yeah.
Have a good
so
night, all.
I just
Bye.
wanted
Good night.
everyone to know that. So, all right. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
All right.